Sons of the Forest fully released on PC on February 22nd, 2024, following a year-long early access period since February of 2023. It's developed by Night Games and it has been published by New Night. Now, despite this not being a brand new game or a before release game like we usually do, we are still going to talk about it today and give it a full honest review, talking about some of the gameplay, the visuals, the sounds, and the originality, because I just played the full game in 2026. That's right, we started on January 2026 and we just finished the full game. I completed the full story. I have played the predecessor, The Forest, and we are going to review it today. Usually I only do games that are before their release to help give feedback to the developers and show you all the top new games to look forward to that are coming out. However, I did get a lot of positive feedback on the last honest game review that we just did. And because of that, I think we're going to go ahead and continue to try to build that series just a little bit as a secondary review series for the channel since it did so well. And if it continues to do well, we will continue to do more. So interact down below to let me know what you think of the video. Now, I started this game and finished it in about a month's time. In that month, I played just under 40 hours, and I messed with a lot of the mechanics. What I can say about this game immediately off is that visually, it's very beautiful. It's a game that, despite having mutated monsters and all these elements of survival and horror coming together into one, the game by itself is stunning. It's one of those games where you can walk and you can find places and just be mesmerized by the stuff that's out there. Along with that is the audio that also sounds pretty decent with the game. When you're in the caves, it sounds like a cave. You have some jump scare moments. You're gonna have some moments where you don't know what is happening, and that's kind of what brings you into the game. It fits the surroundings, things that are underground and above ground, nature versus horror. It's all there combined. Now, I'm not going to give you any spoilers, or at least I'm going to try to avoid all the big spoilers, especially to the story. But this is a continuation of the first Forest, and I have no doubt that Forest 3 that just got announced during last year's Game Awards is likely going to be a continuation of this. And I have my own speculations to all the details of probably what Forest 3 will be about in my last video of our Forest Let's Play series, which you can find here as we documented our entire playthrough through not only live VODs, but through edited series here on YouTube as well. Now, starting off, you are a character named Jack Holt, and you crash land on a helicopter with a group of these armed men, which we can only guess is probably private security of some kind, and the surprising thing is you are not actually security yourself. You are part of the press. So why are you on this island is something that you'll have to discover through notes as you go along. In fact, just to know who you are, you'll have to gather notes because the game does not tell you a lot of things, including not telling you who you are until you discover that yourself. It's almost like you have brain damage and you're rediscovering little pieces of yourself and why you're there. And speaking of brain damage, there is one soldier that survives. And ironically, he gets brain damage. But this is your pal Calvin, and he's going to be with you for the whole adventure. And why you're here in the first place is essentially you're after a CEO, Mr. Puffton, who has gone missing while doing some work on this island. And you find out a whole bunch of stuff. There's a whole thing with the cult that comes to the island. There's a whole thing with people who are trying to dig for the mining resources on this island that are a little bit alien linked. Again, I'm not going to give much spoilers because I know there's a lot of people who probably still haven't played the game fully and are looking to do that very soon, as the game is for some reason growing in popularity now, it seems, more than ever. However, when you start the game, that is it, which is something that you could look at as a positive or as something you could look at as a negative, because one of the things about this game is you are basically having to do all the detective work. Again, from everything of knowing who you are to learning about every real person on the island as well as what happened to them. You're even discovering why you're there, where you're supposed to go, and the game doesn't really tell you. The only time you're going to get hints as to what you're supposed to do is when you luckily stumble upon something, such as a note or a camp that has a specific item that you'll need, and you will need items to progress the game, such as the rebreather and the rope gun, but it doesn't tell you any of that in the beginning of the game. You've got to figure all that out just by exploring. And in that way, it could be kind of a negative because there are certain things you can't do without certain equipment, which makes it kind of like where you could get stuck. Luckily today, it's been out long enough. There are reviews and guides everywhere on the internet and on websites to YouTube, so you can look it up. But if you're like me and you're going in for a fully blind playthrough, not wanting any spoilers or anything that made it feel a little bit unnatural or inorganic, then it's going to be a lot of discovery for you. The other negative con about this is that not only does the game have a progression system and you have to go through certain caves and certain camps at a certain order in order to unlock certain things, but you also can't get a lot of the really good in-game weaponry until then. And it's weaponry that I don't even believe should be in-game. Really, there are two big weapons, the shotgun and the katana, that every player is going to want to go for. And both of those, one requires the shovel and the other requires a set of key cards to get to. And you don't really get those best two weapons until you could get one pretty mid-game, and the other one you don't get till very late game. And by the time you get that, you're like, oh, everything I could have used this for is over now. And so that's one of the downfalls. Is I do wish there are some ways that we could get some of these weapons either upgraded or get weapons of similar stats before we actually did. But that's how the game has it laid out, and it has it laid out for a reason. But it is rewarding once you do find those resources. On one of the positive notes, one of my favorite things to find was these sheets of lore. That's how you're going to learn everything, is finding little notes and little pieces of paper throughout every cave, throughout every camp, throughout every crevice. If it's not, even if it's an unmarked POI, go check it out because it probably has something of interest there. Not only can you get notes of lore or videotapes to tell you and show you what happened, but you can also find these blueprints. There are a lot of blueprints in the game. In fact, I believe there's up to 16, and these give you craftable items. Some of them you'll have to craft for the story lore. The others just make the game so much more fun, customizable, and a better experience. Now that we got the focus of the game out of the way and why you're there, let's talk about the things that you can do. Again, this is a beautiful game, and there are going to be places where you come across this game and you're going to look at it and think, wow, what a place to live. And the best part about it is you actually can. This is a place you could actually go stay and live in. It is a crafting survival in that way. You chop trees, you collect rocks, stones, sticks, skins, all of the above, and you can build homes of your desire. Really, I mean, there's set blueprints that you could do, like a cabin or a raft boat, anything of that sort. But even more, you can just freestyle it. You can lay stuff down following the structure system within the game, the physics engine in the game, and manage to build your own house. In fact, we did. We went out in a place that was in the middle of a lake that didn't freeze, which is really awesome because this game has seasons. And every now and then you're going to get into winter. And when it gets winter, it gets cold and everything freezes, including the water. Now, the thing is, cannibals can't swim in deep water, but they can run on ice. So if you want a fully defensible base, you really want to build somewhere that is going to be out in the middle of deep water so that they can't come get you. It's a really big advantage we took benefit of during our playthrough. However, when it freezes, they can still come get you. But there are some places that will just keep running and never freeze. If you're lucky, you can find a spot. If you're a new player, I actually recommend you build there. And it doesn't just stop there. You can build tree houses. You can build on the side of cliffs. You can build up in the mountains. You can build out by the ocean. It really is wherever you want. I've even seen some people on YouTube building inside the caves, which is actually kind of a cool concept. Very complicated. I don't know how you could probably do that, but it is a cool concept. So this really gives you all that you could possibly want to do when it comes to building. Now, the building progression is slow, but it is relaxing. Mostly slow because resources, well, eventually they run out. They will respawn once you reload back in the game, with the exception of trees. Trees take just a random amount of time. So when you're chopping trees, maybe be a little choosy of where you chop them down. This is also where Kelvin comes in handy because you can have him do stuff for you, like build blueprints if you're using a blueprint. And you can also have him collect things like logs and stones and sticks and bring them to you or fill up holders that you may have built. He is really useful in that way, and it's a great time to bond with Kelvin. He is the only NPC that will help you build, as there is another NPC that you can eventually find and gain affection for who will later help you in other ways, such as with protection and with food, but not with building. Kelvin is the masculine builder here. Despite his brain damage, he can get things done better than Bob the Builder can. And there's a lot of people who play the game very simply for this mechanic. People love the building in Sons of the Forest, even if it is a little clunky at times. I see people live streaming all the time just doing building, building, building. I play personally for the story because the story and the lore in this game goes so deep and it is so rich, I couldn't stay away from it. That was my primary goal as I started to dig deeper in it. But I have to say the building is also very fun. It's very enjoyable and it's relaxing. Some people play, they turn off all the scary stuff, they turn off the enemies. There is a mode you could do that. I think it's called peaceful mode, and you could just go in and build. Make this island your creation. But if you're like me, you're going to want the mutants and you're going to want the story. You're going to want the combat. And personally, that's what kept driving me farther and farther down the line. And if you are playing with mutants on, the one warning I will give you is as you start to take down the forest, specifically cutting down trees to collect logs, the mutants will get angry. The cannibals will get angry and they're going to come for you. You're going to very quickly find that bigger, meaner, tougher enemies will come for you as you start chopping down the forest. I don't know why the game spikes that difficulty so quickly as you're starting to do those type of things, but it will. It will. At the very beginning, some of the cannibals will just watch you, but as they see you hurting the trees, so to speak, they will come for breaking your knees. The Lorax don't play. So if you are doing the building and you have the monster line, just be prepared for that. Additionally, the map is huge. The map is probably one of the larger survival maps I can say I maybe have experienced so far for a game of this type. It is massive. And it's nice we get a little GPS system so that we can look for things within our hand and find little icons and all whatnot. But it does make me wish that we had an actual real map just because of how big it is. Like, it takes a lot of time to get from one side to the other. And part of it's probably because we have this giant mountain in the middle. And of course, you have to go around. You can't go straight unless you're on top of the mountain and you're willing to climb. In which case, power to you. Now, there are some vehicles that can help you get around. We do have access to golf carts and hang gliders. And if you are lucky to get a hang glider on a really good location, you can get all the way across the map, no problem. Hang gliders are amazing. The golf cart does okay if you can stick to the roads. And the roads will get you pretty much where you want to go, but it does take a little bit of driving skill. And even with the vehicles, you cannot take them under the ground with you. And they just don't fit in those cave crevices, as well as your companions. When you're in the caves, you're all alone. So you have to be prepared, have a good light source, and have a good weapon, because the caves are very relentless here. But almost everything you need is down in the cave. Your lore is going to partly be in the caves. All the good weapons and requirements to get to the next location is usually going to be in caves, as well as this thing called the artifact. Now, without giving any spoilers, the artifact is something that you will essentially need if you're planning to be on the island long term and upgrade most of your stuff. With that, that's almost every piece is down in some big cave, and it's usually hidden. It's not in the same direction as all the other equipment, so make sure you're keeping your eyes peeled for other possible routes. That is one thing that I personally did not like my time down in the caves. And not only because they were dark and scary, but because they're also a little bit buggy and clunky. You cannot save really down in the caves, even though I think you're supposed to be able to. And like I said, I've seen some people even build in some parts of the caves. But again, it's buggy. We have had many times where we tried to save because the caves are just so long and you're worried about dying and you don't want to lose all that progress because the monsters down there are a lot. There's a lot more monsters in the bottom than there are on the top most of the time, and sometimes a little bit bigger mutants in the beginning. So you don't want to lose your progress, especially when you're trying to go get these essential things. The downfall is when you do die and you reload and you think, oh, it's okay, I don't have to fully restart, the game bugs out, you fall through the earth, and then the game recognizes you as drowning, and then you respawn above ground. Yeah, above ground, not in the cave, at the nearby lake, nearby to wherever you were underground. And that takes a lot of travel back and forth. And the other bugs I found were specifically at the end game. And again, we're not going to give any big story spoilers here, but the in-game cave I played, and I had to beat the second to last boss about 4 times because it kept bugging. We had that cave bug because I did try to save inside the cave. So we had that happen on the first run. On the second and third run, the guy that is escorting us through the cave bugged out during his little fight scene and made it so even after we beat the boss then, because he was bugged out, we could not progress in the story any further and finish our game. So it took about 4 tries to get the end game complete for me. I don't know why. The end game is supposed to be the hype. It's the goal. It is the mountain you're trying to climb, and when you get up there, you're supposed to feel good and feel excited, but for me, the end game was the worst part. Not because of the stuff you learned, because it gave us incredible fights. The final boss was the best fight, like the very final boss. Epic. But getting there through that final cave was so bugged out, it was miserable. It was the most miserable part of the game, was getting through that cave. And I had to redo it so many times. I feel like I became a pro gamer level Sons of the Forest player just because of how many times I had to do that cave alone. And I don't know why the ending is what bugged out, but it is. Even so, though, I would say that the gameplay in this game is very worthwhile checking out. Very worthwhile. It is clunky. It is not the most polished, pristine game out there, but it is one of the funnest survival horror games on the market right now. And even going in here at 2026, a couple years after its release, especially if you're doing it blind, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun if you like this type of game and you're not in a big rush. You're ready to explore. You're ready to dive. You're ready to build. You're ready to fight. Now, I can't recommend it enough to go out there and get your hands dirty in Sons of the Forest. Even if you never played the Forest, you'll learn enough over time that you won't be as deeply immersed in the lore, but you're not going to feel like you're completely incapable of understanding everything either. And that's where we're hitting the originality. The originality is there. It doesn't play like any other game out there of its genre. You know, it's not as complex as games such as Green Hell, but it still has such a fun and unique filter of how it builds, how the world is set, things you have to do, the creatures you meet, the people you meet. It's a very original game for the genre. And even though it's a few years out of date, I recommend going and giving it a try if this is something you even remotely think that you would like. The beautiful thing is if you if you're really wanting to get into it, but you're so unsure if you'll like the game because you didn't play the first game, or you're so unsure that you'll think it's long lasting because you just want to mess with the building and not so much the story, that's fine. It fits a wide spectrum of players in that way. And if that is the case, we have been so fortunate now that it's been out long enough that you can catch it on the Steam Winter Sale or the Steam Summer Sale and pick it up then for a little bit of a discount. That's actually what I did. I got it during the Winter Sale of 2025 and I started playing it at the beginning of January 2026. And I do not regret the purchase at all. I think it was worth every dollar I spent on it. And again, this was in no way sponsored, but this was my full, brutally honest review of Sons of the Forest. If you liked it, make sure you give it a like. If you dislike it, dislike it. Comment down below what you think of the game, what you think about the Forest 3 coming out, and how you like these reviews compared to our Nomadic demo reviewers that has been the king of our channel for almost 2 seasons now. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button so you can catch more videos up in the future. I have linked a playlist to Sons of the Forest series here. And don't forget, we go live 5 days a week, every day, 7 p.m. Jakarta time, except for Tuesday and Thursday. I hope to catch you at one of the streams. You can see us play testing brand new games there, or doing one of our fun main titles in between our testing. I look forward to catching you there.
Disconnected.